Hey everyone, welcome to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast, the ultimate blueprint to self-love and inner peace. I'm your host, Danielle Van. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, life coach, meditation teacher, and author, I've spent my life studying and learning from the stories that make us human. It's my passion and goal to help you shift your mindset and create a lifelong revolution to help you reach your greatest potential. Emotionally resilient, emotionally sound people are deliberate in the way they show up in the world. They understand their belief system and their core values. They understand what they want and need. And in doing so and having this understanding, they remind themselves what they're grateful for, what they have focus within, and how they can control themselves in the moment. They allow themselves to feel positive, to understand the negative, to grieve, to do all the things when it comes to their mental and emotional strength. Understanding your value and belief system is so highly important that without it, you cannot become emotionally resilient. That's why you and I are taking a one-on-one deep dive into understanding your emotions and values. We're going to uncover how to get down and break it down into simple facts. And then I'm going to hand over the inner conversation, the words that people tell themselves when they have emotional resiliency. It's sentences that truly can change your inner dialogue from now on. So let's not waste another moment and get right into it. The Get Your Life Together Girl podcast starts right now. It's not lost on me that the majority of times that people come into my office and we sit down, we unload all the trauma, we unpack it, we get down to the why, that they begin to feel empty. There's a new form of loss that they really can't identify. And I know what it is, but they struggle to understand. When we take everything away and we unpack so much, what we're left with is, what's for me? That's a big question. What is for me? What do I believe in? Who am I? In fact, that's probably the biggest question you could ever ask yourself is, who am I? What do I believe in? And so when we get to that place, we've done all the healing work. Now, I want to preference this and say, you can actually do this work before you do the healing work. In fact, it's, probably better to do it so that the healing work goes a little bit smoother. But if you have done the work and you get to a place that you feel like, okay, I've let so much go, but I still don't know who I am, it means that we need to get down to some personal facts. What do I believe in? What is my truth? In order to really get to those understandings, we have to get to the list, right? We have to do some work and really think about, what are my personal truths? And let's start with some definitions because that's my jam. Let's look at what a belief is. I often ask people to do this and then bring it in. And when I give the homework, when I give this assignment of listing your beliefs and values, I will say, go to Google. Go to whatever search engine that you are used to using, Chrome or, any of the other ones, and look up what a belief and what a value is. And I want you to go to multiple different engines because when we are used to using only one search engine, it develops a bias. So if you're used to reading news articles that have a lot of positive spins to them, the very thing that you're going to retrieve when you look up a certain word or a certain theme is going to have that slant to it. If you're used to reading a lot of negative news, guess what? It's going to learn that bias and give you a negative slant. So I want you to challenge yourself and go to multiple search engines and look up the word belief and value. What you're looking for is a definition that really resonates with you. You're going to come up with a lot of different things, but I want you to really hone in on what works for you. But between you and I right now, I'm going to give you a couple definitions that have been curated from multiple sources, okay? And then kind of boiled down to our easier approach to things. So a belief is an acceptance that is a statement that is true or that something exists. So that's a belief. It's also trust, faith, or confidence in someone or something, belief in them. It's also being certain of something that you believe. It's a knowing. It's an understanding. I want you to think about that. What are your beliefs? What do you believe in? We're going to get to the next piece in just a moment, but think about that. What do I believe in? What's important to me? Then I want you to look up value. For our standard today, a value is a person, principle, standard of behavior, or a judgment of what you feel is important in your life. It is sort of the guidance system as to what you will acknowledge as truth. It's the importance or the worth of something you believe in, and it is something that you put into practice through your actions. So that means choosing valuable emotions, choosing valuable relationships, choosing valuable situations and thoughts. Right? It's a behavior, a principle, or a standard of something you believe is important into your life. But let's go a step further because it's going to really help you with this exercise. I want you to look at your beliefs as personal facts. This is not a fact for everybody else. This is your truth, a personal truth. This is something that you believe in and something that you have faith, trust, and confidence in. It's a way that you believe something should unfold. It's something that you believe is a tangible and your truth. Personal facts. Here is the most important understanding of that. Not everyone understands the same fact, and that your beliefs can both be positive and negative. But in order to be emotionally resilient, you have to know that you will always lean into both sides of the fence, no matter how positive your mind is, no matter how focused you are on your thoughts and on your feelings and your actions being of good quality, of value. There will always be positive and negative, yin and yang, black and white. The issue is when we allow our beliefs to only fall into that place that we have problems. And so that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about here is personal fact. Now, there's another truth that we have to really look at. And here is the second part to the fact. Your facts can change. That's what's so important. Your beliefs can change as you grow, as you establish yourself, as you find new releases and new outcomes, new tools, new thought patterns, new emotions. Your facts, your beliefs will change. It's so important to understand that because so often we hold so tightly to our belief system that we're still operating out of outdated perspectives and we can't figure out why life isn't working for us. And generally it's because we have changed our belief system, but we haven't allowed our thought process, our emotional body to connect to that change. So even though we're calling this a personal fact, know that your facts are not concrete. Okay? So important. Now let's move into what common beliefs and values are. So important to understand that because again, I want you to have this formulation of a list. I believe this, I put value in this, okay? Some positive core beliefs. Remember I said positive and negative. So a few examples of the positive core beliefs could be opportunities are all around me, or life is good, or I'm confident, or I love people. I can do this. I believe in myself. Tomorrow will be better. Learning is key. These are the trust, the faith, the confidence in something, particularly you, right? It's how you think about and feel about your life. Other really deep core beliefs could be your belief in something bigger than yourself, God, Allah, whoever it is that you really turn your attention to and worship. Other beliefs that family is essential, blood is thicker than water, that you have to do good regardless of how people treat you. It's these core assumptions that we make for ourselves or have been assigned to us through our learning and our family. And we really put a lot of weight into them and strongly protect them regardless of how they impact us. And that's where we look at the negative. What are some negative core beliefs? I'm ugly. I'm not good enough. I will never amount to anything. People don't like me. I can't get this right. I'm unlovable. I'm stuck. I'm negative. I'm different. I'm stupid. I'm anxious. Maybe you just had a light bulb moment. And if you didn't, I want to hand you one. These things, these core beliefs are in everything. They are the frame in which you operate and see the world through. And they are in our inner dialogue. They are in our outer actions. These things really answer the question, what is for me? As you grow and change the stone, that concrete fact falls away. It becomes very fluid, and you remove those barriers in your thoughts, in your life, and you give yourself the perspective to change the belief and the value. It's so important. So how can we change these core beliefs, these values? Challenging these beliefs will be uncomfortable, period. There's no way around it. It's going to be uncomfortable as you weed through and take out what is not working. And you have to do it. In order to be emotionally resilient, you have to shed. You have to let go. You have to change. You have to evaluate what's working and what's not. I once had a beautiful lady relate this thought process, this exercise, as if you were walking into a hoarder's home. You know, things are stacked everywhere. It's dirty. It's messy. You can barely weave your way through. There's a lot of concrete in your way, right? Roadblocks. But somebody comes in and piece by piece takes out every little thing. And once the house is clear, you can clean it up. You can make it shiny. You can take away all the things that have held you in place. And once everything's shiny and everything's clear, you can begin to put back only the pieces that you want. I love that example because that's exactly what we're doing here. If you know what you believe in, you know what you value, then emotional resilience just becomes a standard. It becomes a thing. So how can you change the beliefs and the value? First and foremost, you have to identify what they are. So grab that piece of paper and write them down. What do I believe in? What are my concrete facts today? Not yesterday, right? Not tomorrow, not the things that you're striving to get to, but right now, today. What is it? What do I believe in? What do I value? Good, bad, it doesn't even matter. What we really want to look at is what comes up. Let it rise. And then I want you to ask yourself, why do I have these beliefs in the first place? Who said this to me? Is this my voice or is this somebody else's? Did I pick this up at school? Did I get it from my first job or from the friends that I've had? Is it from my community, from the religion that I grew up in? Where did this come from? And then to change the belief, you have to really look at, is this still a fact? And if it's not, think about, how can I move this out of my daily practice? How is this impacting me on a day-to-day basis? If you know, then you can shift the belief. You can clean the house. You can pick what's shiny and how you're going to put it back in, right? You have to have the definition. You have to have the knowledge in order to change it. You have to look at it. And what is it tied to? This is probably the most important factor, right? If you know that this is not my voice and you look at how this is tied to something else, we can clean up the something else and then change the belief. One example, I had this one beautiful lady come and she was talking about perfectionism. And I said, well, where does the perfectionism come from? Right? This core belief for her was everything always had to be perfect. It was a positive and a negative. If you really look at perfectionism and you boil it really down to the finite pieces of it and you thought, What does this perfectionism do to me? Well, it can cause my own trauma. It can be in this space in my mindset that if I do not hit this pinnacle, I hit failure. There's no in between. This is a very hard space to live in, right? It's this seesaw of high and low. It's this place of feeling like if I do not do this, I will fail. There will be no good impact in my life. And that can be very traumatic, right? That could be a space where you're literally injuring yourself and your mindset and your emotional body over and over and over again while you push to try to succeed. That's exhausting. Where did it come from? Well, I saw my parents. They were workaholics. Everything was a struggle. And so I always thought if I could just do better, then it would be okay. Well, is it? Does everything have to be perfect? We had to remove that value system out of her life. I value perfection. My belief is I can achieve it. It is a terrible experience within the mindset. When we begin to change our core values, we really look at the fact that our daily thoughts, our core beliefs, our actions are all tied together. If we change what we believe, wouldn't we be more open to life, to the things that we want, to experiencing, to impacting ourselves in a very beautiful way? You have to dedicate the mind and your awareness, these core values and beliefs, to changing what works for you. In order to change what works for you, we also have to change the inner conversation. We can't do that unless we know what we believe and value. That is why, if you've ever tried to just think positive and it didn't work, that's why it didn't work, right? You didn't change anything other than the thought process to try to grab onto something better. And that's great. And sometimes it works, but usually it has a very short shelf life, right? It doesn't last because there's nothing to keep it going. There's no actual change in it. So what is for me? That's really the question I want you answering. What is for me? What do I value? What do I believe? And then again, like I said, we're going to change the inner conversation. I'm going to give you quite a few thought processes that the people who are emotionally resilient really lean into. And I want you to be very, very intentional in your listening, because remember, I've said it over and over again. I'm going to continue to say it. Your core beliefs can be positive and negative. And even when negative things happen, hard things happen, you still have the power to lean into what is an actual truth for you. This is how resiliency is built. It's through evidence. I know I can. I know I have. I know I will again. Not, I can't make it through this. I am stuck. I'm not sure how I'm going to make it. And we lean into these doubts, the negativity, even though we have the belief and the evidence that we've already done this, right? So let's talk about emotional resiliency. What is it? It's these deliberate expressions and thought processes to our experiences. It's the ability to adapt to stressful situations and cope with life's challenges. Cope is a big word, right? We're not talking about coping mechanisms. We're talking about the ability to move through something through your beliefs and your values. It's this space where we do not avoid or ignore problems, but rather face it with self-belief, self-compassion, enhanced thought processes. It helps you recover in emotional hardships and move through life in a way that doesn't break you, but instead builds you up. It's the space that really takes you to the next level in your life. It breaks through that concrete and helps you know that everything is okay. When I've told some that, they've often said, "Oh, you mean it's about winning the battle?" And the answer is not really. The answer is you're keeping the strength through the storm so that you can stay steady through the battle. I hope that makes sense. I hope that sinks in and lets you know it's not so much about the end result, the win. It's more about how did you do in the storm? How were you dealing? Were you able to keep yourself balanced and centered? Resiliency, especially in the form of your emotions, comes down to a bunch of core pieces, right? A bunch of core values and beliefs. 1, self-esteem. 2, flexibility. 3, strong relationships. 4, spirituality and spiritual freedom. 5, strong coping strategies. Again, we're going to talk about those sentences that people with emotional resiliency, those people who know their values and beliefs, use to get them through these moments. Again, this is a part of building those strategies. 6, strong emotional regulation, which comes from what? Knowing and having the evidence. 7, mindfulness, being open, right? Being aware, being mindful about everything that you do. 8, a non-judgmental mind, attached to nothing, open to everything, right? That's a fundamental piece of mindfulness. And then the cycle starts all over again. So let's talk about those sentences that those who are emotionally resilient use to help them get through those moments. Again, positive coping strategies. The first one that I often see people shift into after they've spent a very long time in survival mode or in their trauma or in a space that they have told themselves that they just can't do anything is this sentence: I can get through this. I'm going to say it again. I can get through this. It feels very simple, and yet it is pulling in all of the strength, all of the evidence from all of the other experiences and saying, I've done this before. I've overcome adversity. I know that I have strength, and I am not going to let this thing take me down. I will be strong in the storm. It is associated with grit and mental toughness. It's understanding that I have the ability even when I don't know what the path looks like. There's another variation to that. I often hear, I hate this, but I know I can do this. I hate this, that's the negative, but I know I can do this. It's the positive. Both sentences really have positive and negative within them. I can get through this. That indicates to everyone and ourselves that there is a problem. There's something that I need resolution for and with. And yet I know that I have the ability to do it. I hate this. I don't like where I am, negative, but I can get through it, positive. Again, if I have this core belief and I use this sentence, I know that I can do it. Okay? The next one is, I will not let myself be a victim. I have heard this from so many women, and I absolutely love this, and I also dislike it, right? Because it really brings our mindset back to the place that we were the victim to begin with. And in times where we are needing to really manage our pain, manage our perspective, it can take us down that dark road, back into those roadblocks, into that concrete fact that I was once a victim. And if we haven't really fully built our resiliency and really understand our core values and beliefs, it can disrupt us. Yet, here's the big yet, being resilient means that you can experience the pain and that you can move through it. I am not a victim. I am not powerless. I have the ability to help myself. I love the shift from I'm not going to allow myself to be a victim to how can I grow from this? That's the positive. This situation has occurred. I feel it. I witness it. I know it. And yet I'm not going to be defined by it. How can I grow from this situation? This is the space that really allows us to get into a beautiful experience, even when the storm is raging. Let's move on to the next one. You probably have actually said this, and a lot of people will associate this to the Christian Bible. But if you do a little research, it actually dates back even to the 12th century from the Persian culture and literature. And that saying is, this too shall pass. It is actually a very beautiful reminder that nothing in life is permanent. And no matter what setbacks or challenges we may feel, they will move, they will shift, they will change. When we hold this in our perspective, in our mindset, we remember the ability to shift is always within our choice. It's always within a space of forward movement. This too shall pass. Another beautiful way to say this is each day is an opportunity. It too means the same thing. I am not stuck. I am not in a permanent space. I have the ability to shift. The next thought pattern, the next sentence is something that I wish every single human would employ in their day-to-day conversation, in their day-to-day thought pattern, because it truly can change the way you show up. And that is, I have enough time. The other variation of that is, I need some more time. Let's break down both of those things. However, I want to say a key component of resiliency is emotional flexibility. Remember, that was sort of one of those pillars we talked about just a few minutes ago. It's this ability to regulate your feelings and reduce the intensity of any situation. It's mastery over how you can be empowered in times that empowerment should feel a little, grimy, dirty, a little harder. It's I'm feeling these strong emotions, but I'm going to take a moment before I respond or before I make a decision, before I make that leap. I need some more time. Or I have enough time. I have enough time to slow down. I have enough time to just really be for just a moment. I don't have to give 100% to this situation, to this person, to this thing, to myself, right? Even myself sometimes. At every single moment. Sometimes I need a break from me, right? I need a break from the situation. I need some time. This allows the emotional body to rest. I need some time. That's one of the biggest sayings I say all the time. Somebody will ask me to do something, or they'll ask my opinion, or they run up against something that is a core belief of mine. And I'll say, thank you for that thought process, or thank you for that perspective. Before I answer, do you mind if I take a little time? I need a little bit more time to digest that. Or that's interesting. Let me think about it a little bit more. It is healthy. It is necessary. If you want your emotions to stay in a centered line, to take your time. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to be flexible in the feeling. As a human, you are going to experience ups and downs. There's no way around it. You're going to feel that way. And so if you realize that I'm going to have a high and a low, and I always want to bring myself back to center, that means I have to be flexible in my thought process, flexible in my emotions, flexible in everything that I do. And it's okay if I tell myself to slow down. I need some more time. It's okay. The next sentence is, I still have things to be grateful for, or I am very grateful for X, Y, and Z. We are hardwired for safety. How many times have you heard me say that? If you're new here, if you listen to any other episode, you're going to hear me talking about safety, because without it, there is absolutely nothing else. There's no self-love. There's no authority. There's no self-confidence, self-esteem. Forget it. We don't have it. We have none of that unless we feel safe. And since we're hardwired to notice threats for our well-being, the people who are the most resilient have a way of turning even the hardest things into a space of positivity. Does that mean it's toxic positivity? Hell no. It means I can look at the situation and say there will be something in this that's healthy and good for me. No matter what it is, in this experience, I will be okay. It's true whether it is a shocking moment, whether it's trauma, whether it is a small moment, whether it shifts and changes, releases, letting go. It doesn't matter what it is. There's still something to be grateful for. It's another way of saying I may be struggling, but I am so thankful for what is good. One of the biggest things that I see over and over and over again, almost every single day, at least 5 days a week when I'm in session with people, is this laser focus into the negative. If kids are listening, turn it down for just a hot second. Okay, there's your warning. It's this laser focus into everything is shit, right? Everything is shit right now. Everything is. And when we think that way, guess what? Our resiliency goes down. Our belief becomes how hard life is. And our ability to really value the things that are working for us falls to the wayside, right? I may be struggling, but I am thankful for what is good. And when I hear that mindset, I will often say, well, what is working? I don't know, nothing. That is not true. Because you may have even heard me say this before too, but you cannot fail 100% of the time. No human can. It's impossible. Even someone who literally is the master of their own disaster does not fail 100% of the time. It does not happen. It's not possible. So if that's the case, know that there's something to be thankful for. There's something that's working. You have to shift the focus. 500 things could be glaringly awful right now, but you have one thing to really hone in on, to laser into that gratitude. Guess what? That one thing has far more power to it than all 500 of those negatives. Where is your focus? Resilient people, those who understand their emotions, those who understand their beliefs and their value system, understand everything could be wrong, but that one thing carries more weight. Can you lean into it? Can you allow yourself to be so focused on that one thing? Doesn't matter. I worked with a woman last year, and I have permission to tell a little bit of her story, not all of it, but some. And I remember her sitting in front of me saying, I spent my last dollar to be here. My last dollar, instead of deciding to feed myself, was spent here because I know that you're going to feed my soul. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you need right now and how we're going to get our basic safety needs, our basic human needs covered. If you've took such a leap of faith and put it really into this experience, what are we going to get out of it? And she said, you don't understand. It's this. I'm going to get the positivity. I'm going to get the focus that I need to know that tomorrow I'm going to have whatever I need. She had a quarter in her hand. And she said, this is it. This is all I have. One quarter. And I said, okay, when's the next payday? It was still like 2 weeks away. What are we going to do until then? We had our session. We had this conversation. I remember leaving that time with her thinking, that is emotional resiliency. That is someone who invests so much in themselves that they don't even care if their basic safety needs are taken care of. That's not where I want anyone, right? That's not what I want for you. But I am saying when you put that kind of emotional resilience into yourself and that much positivity, everything will be okay. And it was okay for her. When people found out at her office that she was down to this last dollar, that everything in her life was falling apart, guess what? They stood up. They took care of her in a way that she could not even fathom. And she ended up at the next year, this year, turning around and doing the very same thing for someone else because her life was in a totally different place. And that's what I'm talking about. When you look at the hard times and you say, I can make this my focus. I can be grateful for what is working. And I can look at my life and say, you know what? All of these other things are really, really hard. And I've come into a space where my marriage is broken and he's an alcoholic and I'm losing everything. And my best friend won't listen to me and my mother won't help me anymore. And my children are suffering, but I am taking a stand for me and there will be nothing else that I worry about other than what is working. That is emotional resiliency. That's knowing the belief and the value system. And you don't even have to be there. You don't have to be in that space. You do not have to be at rock bottom to know I can hold on to that one thing. And that one thing is going to change everything. It's one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. Focus on gratitude. I'm going to give you one more One more thing that it really takes so much work to get to. This is not going to be an automatic sentence for you. It's not going to be an automatic feeling or a thought process, but it is something that I really hope at some point in your life you will get to. I am letting this go. Ugh. That's such a powerful feeling. It's such a powerful movement when you get to a space where you know I'm clearing the house, right? I am forgiving what doesn't make me feel good. I'm letting this go because the weight is not necessary. I'm focusing on what I want to focus on. I'm letting go of the pain. Developing resiliency requires getting back to a place where you let go of certain circumstances that keep you feeling, quote, stuck. It's knowing that I have the ability to overcome and then let it go, right? I don't have to tell the same story. We talk so much about triggers. What is a trigger? It means that there was an experience, a thought, a feeling, a situation, a smell, a song. It doesn't matter what it is that comes up and pulls out the memory and ask us to hold it again, to feel it. And yet, if we realize that that in and of itself is a way that we are re-traumatizing ourselves by leaning into it instead of doing the work through it, right? There's a difference. I lean in and then I just hold it and then I feel it and I experience it. That's a trigger. But if I make my way through it, it means I offer myself perspective and healing and understanding and decide, where does this belong in my clean house? It doesn't belong there. If it's weighing you down, it doesn't belong. A lot of times people will say, I don't know how to forgive. And I say, it's not an act of like a perfect little formula that says, first you do this, and then you do that, and then you have forgiveness. Forgiveness is, I choose to no longer lean into it and hold it. It doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it right. It just means that I understand, I hold view of what's happening or what has happened. And I can say, I no longer need this. I no longer need to carry this burden. I no longer need this on my shoulders, in my thought process. I don't need to hold this anymore. I am letting this go. When we know our emotional space, when we know what our emotions mean to us, when we understand our belief and our values, everything changes. We focus more on what works and then what doesn't. We focus on the payoff instead of the payback. Feel those words. I focus, when I know what I need and want, on the payoff and not the payback. I let go. I don't have to say it is what it is. Instead, I say, I know what I need. I know what I'm grateful for. I know I need some time. I know this too shall pass. I know that I don't have to be a victim to my circumstance. I know I can get through this. I know that I have the ability to do whatever it is that I need and want. I've got this. I'm taking control. Can you imagine the difference in your life if those were the words that you said to yourself? Can you imagine what it would feel like if you just said, you know what? I don't have to worry about what the old messaging, the old programming was, what I was taught. Instead, I'm cleaning the house one by one little thing at a time until it's all shiny. And then I get to decide what goes back in. It starts with understanding. It ends with language. It ends with action. It ends with knowing exactly how to answer those 4 questions I ask all the time. What do I need? What do I want? How do I want to feel? And how am I going to get there? Knowing all of those things allows you to have that grit, that emotional toughness, that emotional understanding, that ability to be strong and overcome adversity. It allows you to get through the breakthrough instead of the breakdown. Don't you deserve that? Don't you deserve to feel your best? Don't you deserve to know, I've got me? I've got me in such a way that I've never had me before. I know what center is. I know what I need and want. You do deserve that. And it is an essential step into getting your life together. Thank you so much for listening to the Get Your Life Together Girl podcast. If you've enjoyed these tips for bettering your life and are seeking daily inspiration and additional tools and tips, you can follow me on social media at Get Your Life Together Girl on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, YouTube, and now Threads. You can also visit the show notes, my blog, and my courses at getyourlifetogethergirl.com. If you've enjoyed this episode, I do encourage you to share it with family members or friends, as it does help us spread this message to those who may need it. If you are on Insight Timer, I invite you to join me for my new 15-day affirmation course, where I take you through a journey on how to use your brain chemistry to create your greatest desires. It all is available right now there. It's linked in the show notes. Thank you again for listening. Until next time, be kind to yourself and others.